Good morning and welcome to the next episode of the Grey Nomad Knits. I'm coming to you from Perth, Western Australia, and I'm sitting here in my craft room, which I love. What else can I say? I still don't get used to doing this. You can find me on Ravelry as JillyMG or on Instagram as JillyMG60. I'm not on Ravelry all that much, mostly just for looking at new patterns and inspiration. But yeah, you'll definitely find me a lot on Instagram. I also have my own little shop to sell products that I make, and it's on an Australian platform called Madeit.com.au. And at the moment I only sell to Australian customers, but I'm hoping that will change in the future. Problem is the cost of postage becomes so prohibitive to anyone from overseas wishing to buy anything. But it's not just knitted products I sell on there, or crocheted products. I also sell a range of things that I have sewn. I also sell my products in a shop over in Perth called the Tasty Pear, which for any Perth people is at the Bassendean shopping centre. So the top I'm going to show you in a minute that I've just finished will soon be on sale over there, ready for the coming summer. Now you'll have to forgive me if I sound a bit mumbly-fumbly today, but big step for me yesterday, I went to the orthodontist to have braces fitted. Now, they're not like the old sort of braces, they're called aligners. I'll come up close so you can see. There's little nodules they've put on my teeth, and they've made these plastic, almost like retainers that clip onto them, and they're going to pull my teeth back, which is going to be awesome, but it's going to be a 2-year process. And as it's only the first day today with them on, it feels weird talking with them. But hopefully I'll get better as time goes on. Okay, we're going to head right into today's episode with a finished object. So this is my latest Bahama Blouse, and the designer, I have to just consult with my notes, the designer is Brianne Mauldin, Mauldin. Now this is a beautiful pattern. It is so well written. It's been a joy to crochet. I've made 3 now, and this is my 3rd one. And these are all heading over to the shop in Bassendean in a couple of weeks. And I think for the Perth summer, or even for spring, they're going to be beautiful. I have ordered some Jacaranda Forest tags to sew on the back of them. So, I can tell the back because you can see like the fake seam. But for someone purchasing it, they may not be aware. So I want to put some labels in the back so it's easy to tell the back from the front. But this is the front. Now it does look like it's coming in a bit down at the bottom, but that's just the nature of the pattern. I am going to give it a bit of a soak and a block. This is cotton, so I don't know how well it will block out, but I have had a friend try the blue one on that I made, and it stretches out beautifully when it's on. So although it's a bit of an illusion that it's drawing in, when they're on, they actually don't. So this is really beautiful, and this cotton was gorgeous. So this was King Cole Cotton Soft DK, and the colour is red. Oh, actually the colour is cherry, sorry. This is what I have left, plus a tiny bit that I had left off the body. I didn't want to continue using that on the sleeves because I didn't want to get to the last round and then run out of yarn and have to join more on. So I opened up the last full skein I had to do the sleeves, and I think that worked really well. I bought this when I was on the UK at the most beautiful shop called Ready Steady Knit, which is a place called Prudhoe, Prudhoe. Last podcast I completely got it wrong where that shop was, but Prudhoe is up near the borders, and I think we actually went there the day we were driving up to Scotland. The ladies in the shop were just so delightful, and we had such a laugh, and I follow them now on Facebook. So if you're watching and you live anywhere near there in the UK, go and support your local local yarn shop and give them some business, because they are a gorgeous little shop. This cotton was so nice to work with. This pattern, I didn't make any modifications at all, except for the lacy section at the bottom. I'm trying to remember what size crochet hook. I think it was a size 5 I used, and it said it was a size 4.5 for the main part of the body, and it said to go up to a 5 for the lace. But after I did the other two, I decided that I would actually go up another size again for the lace. So this time I did the lace on a 5.5, and I'm really glad I did. It still looks beautiful. I still did the sleeves on a 5 because they don't have to stretch out as much. How lovely are those? I'm so proud of my crochet. Honestly, if you want to try crochet and you never have, give it a go. There's so many YouTube videos out there to help you through it, and I have learnt so much over the last few years. And even when I did my Phoenix blanket by Hooked on Sunshine, they had the most amazing video tutorial that you could purchase along with the pattern, and it was only like an extra $1 or something. And I learnt so much from that tutorial that I feel like now I can tackle anything. So that is my Bahama Blouse by Brianne Malden, and I absolutely love it, and I may have to make one for myself. I better show you the back. You can see where the start and the end of the round is, and it's just really like a fake seam. So I'm happy with that. And I think the way she joined the rounds worked really, really well. Sometimes it looks really messy in crochet, but I just think that looks like a seam going all the way down. And I think the designer did a wonderful job with that. So you start at the top, and instead of just doing a normal chain, it's it's actually the first row in the chain all combined. So it's like a foundation chain row. I'm not quite sure, but it saves you having to do your first round into your chain, which can be a real fiddle at times. And it worked really well, and it's a beautiful neat finish. So I'm very happy with it, and it's done in the round right from the start until you get to here. Then you miss a whole pile of stitches and rejoin it, so you're just going round and round for the body, and then you just pick up on the sides later, just like you would do with knitting, but in crochet it's actually easier to pick up stitches. And I think I had to pick up 60, so I just divided this in half and made sure I picked up 30 on each side to get it nice and even. So there it is. I absolutely love it. As soon as the labels arrive, I'll be sewing those in, and it will be going over to the shop. That was my only finished object, but I have got progress I've made on my whips, which I'd like to move on to now. And we shall start with my socks. If you remember last time I started doing some socks, I was just using a pattern out of my Japanese stitch dictionary, which I don't have with me right now, but if you want to see which pattern it was, you can look up in my last episode and see there. So I'm just going to get my blocker. I actually remembered to find them today, and see if I can get this on here, because I finished one sock and I'm going to start the other one tonight. I'm going to cast it on tonight. I'm so happy with how these are turning out. More fingers and thumbs. Hang on a moment. Okay, I've got my blocker out. Now these blockers are not the best, but they will do. I'm getting to the stage where I don't really want to spend a lot of money on gadgets for knitting, and I don't actually block my socks. As soon as they're finished, I just wear them and then wash them when they need it, and they don't actually need to be blocked. But it's nice to have them on a blocker to show you. So I'm just going to stick with these ones. So they're not the best fit, but that's fine. So, sorry, I just knocked my table. This is my socks. Now this yarn is gorgeous. It's KnitPicks Hawthorne Fingering. I've got a new light, so I'm having a bit of trouble getting everything to focus. Can you see that? It's blowing out. There we are. Yes, so the colourway is Goddess Kettle dye. Well, I think Goddess is the colourway. kettle dye is the method of dyeing. So I've just put this really nice cable pattern down here. It is a bit hard to pick out with this yarn. It's almost like a variegated, but it's showing up more variegated on the screen than what it actually is in real life. In real life, it's just a beautiful, almost luxurious looking tonal, beautiful depth of purple. If I sit back a bit, you might get a better idea. Anyway, it's a pleasure to work with. I did the extra stretchy cast on, which is much better for my foot, so it goes over my heel really well. I think I did about 60 rows of the pattern, and I always do a heel flap and gusset because I have a high instep, so I find that just goes over my foot a lot better than I think. I actually did the same amount of rows for the foot as I did for the leg, and it was too long, so I had to pull out about that much before I put the toe on. And this is the umbrella toe, which is really nice because it's not stretching out properly on my blocker, so you can't really see it that well. But you just space the increases all the way around instead of just doing the increases at the side. And I really like that for my foot. It seems to fit really well. The Japanese Stitch Dictionary is a wonderful book, and there's just a wealth of patterns in there. So you can almost decide if you want just a panel. This is just a panel out of a much wider pattern, or you can get an all over pattern, like a textured pattern, all sorts of things. I really enjoy now just picking something out every time I make a pair of socks. I basically always stick with this sort of heel, and I always stick with 20 rows rib, and I pretty well always stick now with the umbrella toe. So it means I just want to decide what to do with the rest of the sock. If it's a self-striping yarn, I tend to just do plain old stocking stitch because I think that works really well. But I do like to put a bit of patterning in sometimes because otherwise you can get a little bit fed up when it's just a plainer yarn. So I'm really enjoying these. Tonight I'm going to cast on for the second sock, and I should have that finished hopefully by the next time I speak to you. And then it's always exciting because I get to pick out another project. So yep, that's my own socks using KnitPicks Hawthorne Fingering yarn. I forgot to tell you that this yarn is a it's 80% superwash fine Highland wool. So Highland, I wonder if that means Scottish wool, I'm not sure. It doesn't say on the label. And 20% polyamide, so that'll give it strength as its socks. So yeah, very happy. I've got nothing bad to say about this yarn. It's a delight to work with, and I'm using my beautiful Leica needles. And I had another one break, by the way, but I didn't bother. There was no point going back to the shop where I bought them because they've never got back to me. They were supposed to. And now they only have an online store, so I can't even go and visit them. And I'm very tempted to put on one of their Facebook posts, what happened to the needle you were supposed to order me to replace the one that broke. But, you know, as I got it replaced by Leica themselves, I'm not worried. But I did have another one break, but I managed to order just another set of them, so I've got a few spares now. Maybe there's a bit of, it didn't actually break, it just... you know, sometimes the laminating in the wood, it just slightly comes apart so it catches on your wool, and that is a nightmare when that happens. So I just stitched it, and I had an old whoops I had an old one of the rosewood who makes these? Knit Pro. So I just used that while I was waiting for the new ones to arrive. These are cheap as chips, and I've never had a problem with them. So if any more of these break, I probably won't buy any more. It's just that they're in a set, so I don't like my set ruined. But anyway, needles. They can be a drama, can't they? So that's my socks. I'm really enjoying those, and I'll hopefully have the other one finished next time we meet. next project is my Battenberg blanket by Sandra Paul. She has her own wonderful podcast called Cherry Heart, I think, the Cherry Heart podcast. She's a beautiful designer. She really specialises in crochet. And I had this lovely yarn that I bought from Bendigo Woollen Mills, and it's called Bloom. Now, they've got a new range of Bloom out, but I don't think you can get this colour anymore. This was called Mahogany. So this is what it looks like in the full ball. So you can see there's a whole range of colours. There's some of the beautiful deep colour poking through there. It's an 8 ply, which is what we in Australia call DK weight. But it is, because of the nature of the yarn, see it's got different fibres twisted together, different colours twisted together. It's, to me, almost bordering on an Aran weight. If you stretch it out, it certainly comes a lot thinner, but I don't know. It's crocheting up absolutely beautifully, so as it's a blanket, the actual weight of the yarn doesn't concern me too much. I'm sorry if my camera keeps wobbling every time I put something on my table. So this blanket is a whole series of squares and in 2 colours. So you have your main colour and a contrast colour, which, did I show you that last week? I've got my husband home today, so I don't really want to go out and disturb him. He's just had a foot operation, so he's out there resting his sore foot. But I'll definitely have it for next time. But it's basically that very pale creamy colour is what I've decided to highlight in the contrast. If you look on the Bendigo Woollen Mills website, it's the raffia colourway. So I'm on my second ball. I did work out that I won't have enough. I've got 5 balls. Well, I had 5 balls of this, so I've got 3 more after this one. And I worked out that that won't be enough because I counted the squares I had after I finished the first one, and it won't give me enough squares to do the size blanket I wanted. I like my blankets to sort of fit nicely on the top of a double bed. That's the size I like them. And I worked out I'd need something like 80 something squares, and when I counted how many I got out of my first ball of wool, I wouldn't have enough. So I'm going to make it a bit smaller, which is fine. It'll still be a beautiful blanket. It's not going to go on a bed anyway. I'm making this for hubby, so this can go on his favourite chair. But I have done quite a few more squares since I last saw you. Just let me show you. I've done all these. So there's about, I think I counted them this morning, but I've already lost count. Let's have a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 28 squares I have here, and I think I've worked out I need about 69 or something, so I'm more than a third of the way through. And look how you can see the variation in the different colours just from the sides. They're just gorgeous. This yarn is beautiful, and I thought it would be really splitty with that. See, in this bit I can see 3 different colours in there. There's the burgundy, there's like a charcoal, and the pale creamy colour. So, but it doesn't split. I'm absolutely amazed. So if I just hold a couple here like this to show you, how nice is this going to look? If I'd had enough, I would have liked to have done the whole blanket in this and not had a contrast, because there's so much contrast. Look at that. Look at the contrast between those two. But I won't have enough, and they don't make this colour anymore, this colourway anymore. So I'll just keep going, and I'll do the alternating squares in the other colour. And I believe that when you do the alternate colour squares, that you sort of join them as you go. So I'm not quite sure how that works yet. I haven't read that far into the pattern, but it will be very interesting to see. I have made a modification. In the pattern there are Let me just show you on a paler one that's not quite so busy. In the pattern, there's the first round, second round, and then there's the third round. I think the third round is the final one. But I added 2 more rounds because I just didn't want it quite that busy with this busy yarn. So I'll have bigger blocks of the colour. And that's actually working really well for me. And I don't think it'll cause any problems when I do the joining, because it'll just mean, you know, I'll have a bit extra to go. I don't think it'll cause a problem anyway. I haven't read the instructions yet, but I will keep you posted. I'm hoping by the next time I podcast, I'll be well on the way to having all these ones done, and I may even be started on the raffia colour. So we shall see. Trouble is, we have so much on at the moment, and also because I spend, during the day, I try and work on things for the shop. So I only get time to do these sort of things at night. But, you know, that's life. And when I work at the shop, it's all volunteer work. I do take my crochet with me. So I get to do some there, which is great. Okay, so that's my batten bird blanket. It's growing and it's going to be beautiful when it's finished. And it'll be finished probably just in time for the heat of summer. But that's all good, that's okay. The last project I have to show you is the progress on my Marie Wallen Wild Rose jumper. Now, followers of my podcast will know from previous episodes that I made a bit of a stuff up when I was doing the back, in that I somehow, because this is knitted in the flat, so when you're shaping the back, you knit along so many stitches, and then you turn and knit back the other way, and then the middle section you put those on a stitch holder, and then you do the other side and you rejoin the yarn, and you do it to match the side over there that you've just done. This is the way I always was taught to knit anyway, so it's not a new concept, but I don't know what I did. I always blame these things on the drugs I'm taking for my nerve pain, but I somehow miscalculated and I had more stitches on one side than the other. But it wasn't a lot. I think it was like 3 or 4 stitches maybe. So I thought I'm just going to leave it for now, because pulling out colour work is a pain in the neck because you've got so many colour changes in this that it would have been very awkward. And I probably would have had to discard that yarn. I don't think I could have reused it because I'd already cut and trimmed it. So, you know, the ends and sewn in ends. So that was going to be just a nightmare. So I thought I'll wait until I finish the front and see how it holds up. And I have finished the front, and I'm pleased to say that I'm not going to rip anything out. And if it's a little bit skewy when it all comes together, well, so be it. But I'm going to show you. Oh, it's caught. So here's the back. So yeah, this side is a bit smaller than this side. Yeah, so I don't know if it's really that noticeable. If I turn it round, it's very hard to tell when it's all curling over. Once I block it, it'll probably make it more obvious, but anyway. So now I have finished the front. So if I hold them up and show you. So this will be joined together as a seam, and this is where the problem is. You can see here that there's about that much difference. So I'm just going to stretch it out a bit when I block it and make it fit. But really, you know, it's just up here on the shoulder. I don't think the neck is going to look out of place. If I hold it up like this, it's so nice. I don't think it's going to, it's the back anyway, which is under the bottom of my hair. So I don't think anyone's going to come up to me and say, hey, your neck's 2 or 3 stitches to one side where it shouldn't be. So I'm just going to leave it. I think it's going to be fine. And I'm actually, you know, I think, like I said to you before, I haven't really been enjoying the process of this. I love what it's looking like, but I think I was just getting fed up with all the colour changes. You know, it's pretty intricate. I'm just trying to hold this up under the arm so I can show you how nice it's looking. But I knew that when it was finished I was going to love it. But I was really getting fed up, and especially after I made that mistake. That's pretty nice, isn't it? I'm really happy with my colour work. I especially love that band there. That's gorgeous. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it's turning out. My floats are fine, you know, floats are floats. I tend to not carry them for more than 5 stitches, but I really don't think it would matter because this is already felting up. As you can see how I've been sewing ends in as I go. I'm working on the sleeves now, and I'm not sewing the ends in as religiously. So what I do is, when I have to change colour, the new strands of the wool I'm using, I will sew those in, but the strands I am discarding I will leave at the side, and I'll probably try and weave those a little more into the seam because I don't want to have, you know, as you all know, I have a problem with my arms, and this is going to be a tight fit on my arms anyway, and I just figure if I have more strands woven across this way, it's going to tighten it all up a bit. Whereas if I sew them down into the seam, it'll hopefully give that little bit more stretch in the arm itself. Who knows? One day I'm going to find the perfect pattern for sleeve width. Okay, here we are. So this is the progress I've made on the first sleeve. So as you can see, I've not been sewing in as many ends. So I'll deal with those at the end, which isn't a problem. I don't mind doing that. So I've just finished the increases. I have wrapped it around my arm, and it will be a tight fit, but it will fit. So now I've just got to knit straight. I don't think I've got a lot more to do until I get, because I think it comes to about here. So I haven't got much more to do till I get to the where I shaped the top of the arm. I don't want it too long because I want to be able to wear a bracelet with it or my watch, but it's hard to show you the fit because it's curling under, but it will be tight, but that's okay. I am really enjoying doing it now a lot more, and I think it's because I can see the end in sight. I'm a very slow colourwork knitter. I can't for the life of me master, using both hands for the yarn, so one colour in one hand and one colour in the other. So I tend to hold both in my right hand, and I just drop and pick up the yarn as needed, which is fine. I don't care how long things take really, but I know a lot of people like to be quicker, and you must think on this podcast, gosh, she's taking forever to make this. But it's slow fashion. That's what I'm saying. It's slow fashion. But it's she is a beautiful designer, and this is her own yarn, her British Breeds yarn, and it's a joy to work with, and it's really, really soft. It just feels like, I don't know, maybe lamb. I don't think it is lamb's wool, but it's that sort of softness. It's really beautiful to work with, and I'm really enjoying it now. So yeah, I'm hoping I'll have this sleeve finished by the time I speak to you next and have the second one cast on. Depends how many social activities we have. But yeah, that's my Wild Rose by Marie Wallen. I haven't made, oh actually I did make a modification. It is actually a tunic in the pattern, but I didn't want it as a tunic because tunics do not suit me in knitwear because they're too clingy. So I think the first 2 bands of colour work I missed out when I started the body, and I started on the 3rd one up. That's the only modification I've made. Oh, but with the sleeves I added a band because the sleeves were like 3/4 sleeves, Well, this is going to be warm, and in our climate here in Perth, if it's cold enough to wear this sort of knitwear, you need your full length sleeves. This would be far too hot to wear when 3/4 sleeves would suffice. So I added an extra band. I think the sleeves might have started with this one. So I went to the chart and worked out the stitch count for here. But I didn't start my sleeve because in the pattern, so this band would be here and then it's straight into this one. And you almost start the increases straight away because it's sort of like at this part of your arm. But because I added this band, I just knitted this plain with no increases. Then when I moved up to this one, I started the increases as per the pattern so that I wouldn't get confused. So hopefully it'll work out. We'll see how it all fits when it's finished. So I want to show you something I bought. I've got this lovely book which I saw on the Fruity Knitting podcast, and I'd love to try colourwork socks. And Andrea was interviewing Charlotte, who wrote this book, and I did knit my husband a pair of Doctor Who socks which had the TARDISes around the top, and I had to pull them out and redo them because he couldn't get them over his foot because I obviously pulled my floats too tight. So Charlotte has some good ideas for getting around that problem. So I'm looking forward to having a go at some of these. My husband would love these because he loves coffee break socks. Some beautiful things in here. A lot of them are based on nature. I really like this one, which is Raindrops on Roses. I thought these would be really good too for using up a lot of my sock scraps. Because you end up with a whole bag of leftovers from making your socks and nothing that you can really do with them. So I think that's been a really worthwhile purchase, and I'm looking forward to making some of the things out of there. Now, something else I bought. I've been wanting to make a black cardigan for a while. I have purchased a few thin cardigans that I wear all the time in the winter here because our winters, it's still winter and it's going to be 26 on Sunday. That's madness for August. But anyway, sometimes it's just a bit cool outside. You want something that's not too thick and heavy. But I find a lot of the purchased ones are just acrylic, and they're so thin that they don't keep much of the cold air out at all. So I thought ideally what I want is a fingering weight black cardigan. But to try and buy a nice black fingering weight yarn, a good quality yarn, is not that easy. I didn't think I really wanted solid black. I wanted to have a bit of tonal stuff in there. I picked out 2 or 3 patterns that I really liked, and in the end I've decided on this one, Kate Davies, and it's in her book Inkling. I love her designs. And it's this one here, the Woollen cardigan. So it's just plain stocking stitch on the back, and it has these lovely lace panels down the front. Now Kate uses her own brand of yarn in this, and I think it's almost got like a bit of a tweedy look to it, which is lovely. But I have ordered my black yarn from a local Perth dyer called Michelle, and her company is called Dying to Knit. And we had a bit of, she's wonderful, and she also sends orders and sells to international customers. So I'll put her link in the project notes at the bottom of this if you're interested in having a look. And I bought this. Oh, I'm going to have to take a skein out of the bag. So this is her label. Can you see it? It's blowing out. Dying to Knit. Okay. So this is her colourway charcoal. So it is a charcoal. It's not a black, it's a charcoal, and it's beautifully tonal, but not to the extent where it's going to look variegated. But because it's tonal, I will alternate skeins when I do this. And this is on her 4-ply Luscious sock base, which is 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. Now, although there's 100 grams to approximately 400 metres, and although Kate Davies yarn has the same specifications, I still think this might knit up a little smaller because it doesn't have that rustic feel to it, because this is a superwash. So a superwash also grows and stretches a lot, but I want this to fit really well. I'm going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to do a swatch. I'm not going to start it till I finish my Marie Wallen jumper, but as soon as I finish that, I'll be on to this. I'm going to do a swatch, and I'm going to really do calculations to make sure I get a good fit in my arms. Now the trouble is, if you have wider arms, you have a wider sleeve cap. Although, is this a raglan? Let me have a look and see. I haven't even looked at how it's done yet. It's probably knit top down. Let me just see. It is. It's top down with a raglan sleeve. So I think what I'll do, here's the schematic. I'll just put my wool down. I think what I'm going to do is knit to this point when you divide for the sleeves, and then I'll try it on, and if I feel it's going to be too tight, she does actually have an arm circumference measurement there. I think she does. She has an upper arm circumference measurement in her sizing table. So I'm going to double check that and triple check it and quadruple check it to make sure the arm measurement of my arm plus about another maybe centimetre or 2 to give it a bit of ease is going to fit. And if I have to keep going down and doing a bit more of this before I start separating for the sleeves, I'll do it. I'm really going to make an effort this time to put more work into modifying it to suit my measurements. I'm really looking forward to doing it. I think it's going to be a beautiful cardigan and perfect for our Perth winters. And it'll just be really nice to have a staple in my wardrobe that I know I'll be able to pull out whenever I need it. Anyway, so that's it. I don't think I've got much else to tell you. This has probably gone on for long enough. Hopefully by next month I'll have my socks finished to show you, and I'm hoping to be well onto the second sleeve of my Wild Rose. And in case you're interested, I'm wearing my Carenza cardigan by Jennifer Wood. It's been one of my favourite go-tos over this winter. So it's really easy because there's no buttonholes or anything. So I just bought this nice little brooch to join it at the top. And this one I did modify the sleeves to fit my arms. And even then it's still a bit of a tight fit, but it's comfortable. So I'm going to leave you now. I'm going to pack all this away. I'm going to go and see how hubby's getting on with his sore foot. And yeah, I think that's it. What was I going to say? We haven't done any more travels. We haven't done any more travels. We're hoping to go away in our caravan for a week or 2 in October. We'll wait till after school goes back. And I was going to show you, I'm thinking of doing a little craft room tour for my next episode. What do you think? Because I do a lot of sewing, and I'm just looking over here at my sewing desk, thinking I'll have to have it a bit tidier before I show you. I'm really getting into machine embroidery now, which I love to do. It's so much fun watching the designs take shape on your machine. And I'm actually going to make some Christmas ornaments using my machine embroidery. to sell over in the shop. So I might even have some of those to show you next time. But in the meantime, I think that's it for today. Enough waffling. Happy knitting, and I'll see you in a month. Bye.